Okay. All right. Who's on? At least the count. Okay. Okay, so where are we? Ika de Amre on Nun Tet. Does that sound good? Okay. All right, I'm gonna do the I'm gonna do the learning sponsors first, and then we'll go right through. Okay. A year of learning Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser, friends of Leonie Meiserman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanuk Zundel, friends of Mel Skotsky, Moshe Zelig Ben Mordechai, Martin Lippman and family, in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bas Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremias, Tzvi Ben Ze'ev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir. A month of learning, Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his mother, Chana Bas Aryeh Leib, and his father, Shmuel Aryeh Ben Baruch. B. Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai, Leo and Tova Zimmer, memory of his father, Tzvi Ben Azriel, and his mother, Yocheved Bat Yaakov Menachem Mendel, Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bas Yaakov. B. Pizer, in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal Ben Shmuel Halev. Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of her father, Yaakov Ben Yosef. Andrea and David Dolney, memory of her mother, Evel Tzina Bas Shimshon. Friends and students of Rabbi Shalom Kornblum, Rav Shalom Ben Mordechai. A week of learning, Minnie Shavrik, in memory of her husband, Yeshayahu Ben Nechemia Mordechai. Evelyn and Isaac Blachor, in memory of her mother, Apparel Rivka Bas Rav Menachem Mendel Eliezer. Hershey and Leah Mendelson, in memory of his father, Baruch Ben Avram Tzvi. Kayla Hone, in memory of her father, Chaim Yehuda Leib Ben Tzalel. Kayla Haino.
George is little.
Right? George is right. And today is what, the 23rd? So we don't have any individual days of learning today. May Shama's heaven Leah Crank or Feel Belty Shir Shama Leah and Chobin Israel Good Kabenshia. Nun Tet. Top of Nun Tet, Ika da Amre. But I want to go back just for follow the flow of the Gemara. Let's just go back very quickly to the bottom of Nun Chet Amud Beis. Okay, about 3 or 4 lines from the very bottom. Okay. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chia. This is Rabbi Chia Bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Mei Tivei. So he challenged, okay, with the following. Ha'ma'avir beit hasheti ubeit ha'erva lo ken. One who passes a razor or another instrument to remove the hair in the armpits or in the private area should get malka. Mei tivei. And this is challenged with the following braita. Ha'avarat se'ar einam midivrei Torah, that the removal of such hair is not considered Torah prohibited, elami divrei sofrim, but is rabbinically prohibited. Mai loke. So why then does it say that the person gets malchus? Nami dekama. Why also? Because we can say midirabanan, that these are malchus mardus, that these are that's the reason. Okay. So now we're going to get an alternative, and that helps us get rolling, because with the Ika da Amre says, I'm going to give you an alternative lashon to this particular situation, to this discussion. Okay. So that's where we are as we start at the top of Nun Tet Amud Aleph. Okay. Ika da Amre, there are those who say the same lesson, but in the following format. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chia, says Rabbi Chia Bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, still in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Right? Hama'avir beit hasheti or beit ha'erva, one who passes an instrument, primarily, usually we think of the razor, right? But still, what happens? Over the armpits or over the private area, loke is going to get malchus. Why? Mishum because we say, Lo yilbash gever simlat isha, that a man should not wear a woman's garment. Okay, notice, by the way, that this lashon spells out what the potential Torah mandated isur is, as opposed to the other lashon that we said we had to assume that was the prohibition. Okay. Removing here in the armpits or in the pipe. Who the Amar Tana? Because this one is saying it according to the following Tana. The Tanya, who taught in the Braita, Hama'avir Beit Hashechi Beit Ha'erva, one who removes, the hair in those two locations. Harei ze over mishum lo yilbash gever simlat isha. Okay, saying that according to this individual, he cites as his part of his Braita the specific pasuk, which we would therefore think again it would be a deoraisa, a Torah, right? However, Vatana Kama, okay, but what we're saying here is that the Gemara wants to tell us, so we're in a dilemma. From the earlier lashon, it would seem that it's only rabbinic. From this lashon, it would seem that it's Torah mandate. So what is it? Okay. So now we can go on. Vatana Kama, the earlier Tana, in other words, our first lashon, Hai lo yilbash gever, my darishbe. When we say that pasuk of lo yilbash gever simlat isha, how does he darshan it? Okay, mi ba'ele l'kedatanya. It's necessary for him to teach it in the following Braita manner: lo yiyeh klei gever al isha. Okay, that a woman should not have a man's utensil. Okay, I'm using the word utensil in a general. Okay, it could be a certain equipment. Example primarily would be like a sword in their day. Okay, all right, but it could be other utensils. By the way, this was one of the original used back in what of whether a woman could wear a palace or not. Okay, that's a suspicion. We had actually had that already. Okay, and already includes to'evahi, that both of those things would be considered an abomination. All right, ve'ein kan to'eva ella, but there is no to'eva here. Why? Ella, rather, shelo yilbash ish simlat isha, that a man should not wear a woman's garment, v'yeshev bein hanashim, and he would sit among the women primarily for promiscuous reasons. Okay, v'isha simlat ish, nor should a woman wear men's clothes, v'teshev bein ha'anashim, and sit among men, okay, for promiscuous purposes. Okay, that's what the Art Scroll, I believe, note clarifies. Okay. Anyway. Okay. By the way, again, okay, this reminds us that in a contemporary situation where you do have individuals who have gone a gender change kind of surgery. Okay, there have been currently questions asked about which side of the mechitza in an Orthodox shul is that person expected to sit.
That's after they've mutilated themselves.
What?
That's after they've mutilated themselves.
Well, the question is simple, okay, and there have been various different responses to that question. Some have been more stringent and saying the person should not attend that shul at that case. Others have been more lenient and have given a different answer. Yes, sir.
There was a member here, so I don't know him, by the name of Dave Clark, and he was in the schmatter business.
Mhm.
And he made large women's dresses and all the different problems which he had to make. He asked the girl, how do I do this here? I'm making pants, large pants for women. So he had changed it around a little bit in order that it's really a woman's garb.
Correct.
Even though it looks like a man's garb.
Right, right. In fact, years ago, that question was asked because I happen to know that someone asked the Shaila in terms of women starting to wear pants in the 60s. And the discussion revolved around where the zipper was on the, no, literally.
Oh,
If the zipper was on the side, it was considered to be a woman's pants. If the zipper was in the front, it was considered to be men's pants. I know it because of somebody, the question was asked at Stern, and it was during the time that my wife attended Stern, and she shared the information with me at that time. Right? Okay, so that, but notice the implication here is clearly sitting among the opposite gender. That's why it's a toeva, because their intent, okay, is simply is toeva. Well, Labriut, that is a separate issue. That really is a separate issue. Okay, Art Scroll doesn't go into that in its notes, but that is a separate issue there. Okay, let's go on. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Omer, minayin shelo teitzei isha b'kli zayin lemilchama. How do we know then that women should not go out with weapons? Okay, for their day it was swords. Today we're talking about machine guns. Okay, all right. No, remember this, we're talking even in the IDF, when they began to do, we have women in the IDF, okay? So that was a question. So very often you've got young women who, if they don't go to seminary and in Israel, and they go into the army, they are often assigned to non-combat units, okay? Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Talmud Lomar, coming back to our Gemara, what is it teaching us? Lo yeh kli gever al isha, v'lo yilbash gever simlat isha. So answering the question, they cite the two parts of the pasuk. All right, simlat isha, shelo yitaken ish mitikune isha. Here's your point, Chaim. All right, so that a man would not come to use the cosmetics. That's how I'm translating tikkune here, the cosmetics of a woman. Okay, going on now. New piece. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman raises the following. Benazir mutar, velit hilchata kivate. Okay, do we say then that this is permitted? Okay, right before what he said. Okay, that. Okay, but the law isn't like him. Okay, Amrule Rabbanan, the Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, and the rabbis then said to Rabbi Shimon ben Abba the following, right? Chazina lay the Rabbi Yochanan, delete lay. We happen to have seen that Rabbi Yochanan does not have any hair in his armpits. Okay, does that imply that he holds that it's permissible to remove that hair? Amar lahem, they responded, in other words, to these students. Why they would have seen his armpits, I have no idea. Maybe in the Beis Hamerchatz. Okay? Mechamat zikna nashru, because of his age, they fell out. Okay? I don't know if that's the case. Right? Now we get to another example with a story. Hahu de itchayev negida kame de Rabbi Ami. There was a certain man who was going to be subject to the punishment of Malchus at the court of Rabbi Ami. What happened when they got him, I guess, removed part of his clothing in order to prepare him the Malchus, right? Iglai beit hasheti, hashechi. His armpits were revealed, right? Chazeh de lo megalech, and they saw that he did not shave his armpits. Okay. From this, Rabbi Ami thou says, Amar lahon Rabbi Ami. He says then to the court, since he was in charge of making the decisions regarding Malchus in this situation, Shiv Kuha, leave him alone. Okay, Dayan or Din min Chavrayahu, that we're going to assume, okay, that it seems logical since he's that makpid, that stringent about following the law of not shaving his armpits, he must then be part of a group that is fairly scrupulous in terms of their observance of the mitzvahs.
Seems like it's common that other people did shave their
Yeah,
underwear.
that's what it looks like.
Okay, we're going to get to that in another example in just a moment, okay, with another story. But the implication was he felt that since he was the, I guess, the Av based in, he could rule then that to do away with the requirement of Malchus for whatever reason. Okay, right? We don't know what the case was, or things like that. But that was his option, by the way. All right? Okay. Now, new piece, right? We go on. By Mine Rabbi Chia Mahu Legaleh. So they asked then the question of Rab Merebi Chia, what about then, again, question of shaving, okay, or removing hair from the armpits? I think it was Art Scroll that emphasized that, although one could really ask the question in general. Okay. Amarle, he said to him, he responded, Asur, it's forbidden. Amarle, he responds back, Vahak hagidel, but the hair then will continue to grow. Okay, if you don't remove it, and it's going to see that's going to cause them discomfort. Amarle bar pachte, son of nobles or smart guy. Okay, Zman yeshlo, right? Only the hair is only going to grow for a certain amount of time, right? Kol zman shehu gadel no share, and the longer as you age, that hair is going to fall out. Okay, for new question, new example. By mine Rav Merebi Chia. Okay, so this Rabbi Merebi Chia asks another question. Mahu lachuch. What about rubbing one's armpits when there's hair on it with cloth to try to remove some of the hair? Okay. Amarle, he was responded, Asur, it's prohibited. But big dough mahu. But what about the fact that clothes, when you wear clothes, that's cloth, and it may rub against the inside of the armpit. Okay, isn't that going to be the same situation? Amarle, mutar, that's permitted. Now the Gemara gives us a second lashon. Ikeda amri. There are those who say, "By mine b'tfilah b'big do mai." What about the fact if during davening, okay, we're saying that the clothes rub against the armpits?
Now, can he rub?
Hey, oh, I'm sorry. During davening, can he rub with the clothes the armpits there? What's the status? Amarle asur. Told them then it's prohibited. And the Gemara answers, Velit hilchata kavate. but the law is not like it. Okay? All right, not that you should have to do that during davening, but
No, I guess if you have a scratch and you're itching.
it could be, all right? Okay, now, we get to this Mishnah. This Mishnah on Amud Beis goes back to the earlier Mishnah of the two Nazirim that Michael and I still have some views on. However, in this Mishnah, it's very clear, okay? You'll tell Michael when you see him too, all right? It's very clear here that I felt it was different than the earlier one. And here, the two of them are going to bring one set of offerings, okay? According to one view, and then there's going to be another view, okay? What happens? We have these two, either male Nazirim, according to what Shmuel said, right? Or they were two minors or whatever. And one of them dies before the whole,
And they both, one of them was a Suffolk.
they're both, right? Made echad mehem. One of them dies. Amar Rabbi Yoshua. Now, Rabbi Yoshua is going to give us a long, and I will tell you, convoluted, okay, approach to how the two of them need to handle the situation.
One of them, because the other guy died.
Exactly. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about the survivor. We'll use that term, okay, to help keep in mind who's who. All right, made echad mehem. Okay, so what does the survivor do to deal with his situation? Amar Rabbi Yoshua is going to suggest the following. Yivakesh echad min hashuk sheyidur kenegdo benazir. He requests that somebody from the marketplace, okay, volunteer, and we're going to call this person the volunteer, to become a Nazarene. Va'omer. And he says to the survivor says to the volunteer, okay, we're going to bring offerings together, and we're each going to bring two offerings. And as together we're bringing, okay, one set of offerings for a tameh and one set of offerings for a tahor. Okay, remember we said they are all different sets of offerings. Okay, right? Okay, what happens? Im tameh hayiti, says the survivor. If I were the one that was tameh, hareyata nazir miyad, then you're going to be a Nazirite immediately. You start your term immediately. Okay. V'im tahor hayiti, and if I am the one who is tahor, hareyata nazir achar shloshim yom, then we're going to wait 30 days, okay? And then you're going to start your Nazariteship. Okay, so what's the business with the 30 days? Okay, because the problem is going to be, okay, if the first guy, if the survivor was the one who's tameh, then what offerings he's bringing he's bringing the tameh nizir offerings apply to him. And then he's got to, right, go through that purification and then start his term all over again. So that's where we get that 30 days. Okay? So that's why he's saying, you volunteer, you wait 30 days. Because then they're going to bring another set of offerings. Okay? According to Rabbi Yoshua. V'sofrin shloshim, and they count the 30 days. Umavi'in korban tumah, says Rabbi Yoshua, and then they bring the offering for the tumah. V'korban tahara, and then they bring the appropriate offerings for the tahara, right? Because at that point, after that 30-day interim period, okay, if the survivor was the one, okay, who was tameh, Now he's finished his appropriate term, and he's got to bring the appropriate offerings for a tahor nazir. Okay? But what happens? Va'omer, and then when we bring that set of offerings, he says, Im ani hu hatameh, if I were the one that was tameh, korban tumah sheli, okay, then, all right, this is my tameh nazir offering. V'korban tahara shelcha, and you, Mr. Volunteer, you finished your 30-day term, okay, and now you just go through the normal tahor nazir offering format. V'imani hu hatahor. But says the survivor, if I'm the one that's tahor after this 30-day, because I was tameh before, and I brought my tameh nazir offerings a month ago, and now I repeated my term, and now I'm tahor. So if I'm now, says Mr. Survivor, the tahor one, korban tahara shali, then this is my tahor nazir offerings, the korban tama bisafek, and the korban tuma is in doubt. Okay, so what happens? Now we go on, says Rabbi Yoshua. This is all his explanation. V'sofrim shloshim yom. Then we wait another 30 days. Okay, umevi'in korban tahara. Okay, and they bring again the 30-day, at the end of that 30 days, a korban tahara, right? Why? Because if he was tameh, if somebody was tameh, right, that's the point. Va'omer, it says, im ani hatameh, if I'm the one that's tameh, korban tuma shali, then the tuma nazir korban is mine. The korban tahara shelcha. And the tahor nazir korban is yours, Mr. Volunteer. V'zeh korban taharati, and this is my offering of being tahor. V'imani hu hatahor, and if I am the one that's tahor, korban tahora shali, that my pure offering is that. The korban tuma b'safek, and the tuma offerings are in limbo, in doubt, right? And now the Mishnah continues. All Rabbi Yoshua, v'zehu korban taharatka, and this is your then korban of your becoming a tahor nazir. Okay. So after all that, that's what the survivor would have to do. Find another person, wait 30 days, wait 60 days, and so on and so forth. Bring multiple sets of offerings. Okay. Now, Ben Zoma is going to challenge Rabbi Yoshua. Okay. Amar lo Ben Zoma says as follows. Okay. Umi shomei lo sheyidur kenegdo b'nazir, as if to say in our colloquial language, you really going to find somebody in the shuk like that under such circumstances that are willing to volunteer to be a nazir? Under that case, Ella rather, mevi chatat. So Ben Zomer is going to come with an individual approach where you don't need two people, where the survivor can deal with it on his own, as follows. Va'omer, and says, Im tamei hayiti, if I was the one that was tamei, hechatat mechuvati, I have an obligation to bring the chatas. Va'ala nidava, and the ola offering will be voluntary. V'im tahor hayiti, and if I was not the one, says the survivor, who was tamei, but I was the one that tahor, and my buddy who died was the one, the tamei guy, right? Ha'ola mechuvati, then the ola is my actual obligation that I'm doing, satisfying. V'achatat misafek, and the chatas offering is in doubt, is in question. What happens? Survivor then must do what? V'sofer shloshim yom, and he counts the 30 days, because if he were tamei, remember he would have to do his term all over again, right? Umevi korban tahara, and then he would finish a normal term of Nazareth as a tahor nazir. Okay? Va'omer, and what would he say then? Im tamei hayiti, if I had been tamei back then, ha'olah harishona nidava. My original olah was a voluntary offering. V'zo chova, and this olah that I'm bringing now fulfills my obligation. V'im tahor hayiti, and were I to have been tahor back then, ha'olah harishona chova, then that olah fulfilled my obligation. V'zo nadava, and this olah is a voluntary. V'zo sha'ar korbanan, and now I'm bringing the rest of my offerings to fulfill my obligation, even though there's a interim of 1 month in between. Okay, so now knowing that, Rabbi Yoshia is going to give a challenge. Amar Rabbi Yoshia, Nimtza zeh mevi korbonotav lechatzain. If that's the case, we're saying then he's bringing his offerings on a, I want to call it sporadic or a interim or not all together.
Part of it first. and
Part A,
of it
part
later.
B, right? Okay, what happens? Aval hodu lo chachamim the benzoma, and notice what happens, says the Gemara. The rabbis acknowledge the approach of
Then
benzoma for that survivor to act. It's less complicated, but it's more direct, and he can, or whoever it is, can deal with it on
on
himself.
his own, he doesn't have
without-
to look for somebody else.
Right, okay. We're gonna,
No volunteers.
right. So the Gemara now is, we finish up today. Velaite, so let him bring it, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda ba Amar Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel. Lo Amar Rabbi Yoshua ele lechaded ba et hatalmidim. Rabbi Yoshua only challenged him in order to sharpen the students. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that was, I think Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel is trying to be a nice guy, okay?
Yeah, right.
But I really think Rabbi Yoshua was challenging, okay? In that, with asking that question, okay? But it doesn't mean that it isn't a valid question. To get the students to think about the question, can the person who's not say a tahor nazir, bring his offerings not at one time, over a period of time, okay?
Layaway program.
What?
Layaway program.
Well, whatever. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Ma'ila Aved Le Rabbi Yoshua. Okay, what was Rabbi Yoshua really trying to do? V'dakeyet delo lisro. Okay. All right, so what was he trying to do? He was trying to indicate to what degree, all right, in other words, if you waited, all right, what was going to happen is the kishkas, the intestines of the two offerings are going to start spoiling and decomposing, and isn't that a problem? So in other words, the Gemara really says, no, Rabbi Yeshua wasn't just being a nice guy. Okay, he really was raising a very valid question. Okay, let's go to do our Mishnah. We'll finish. Nazir shayat tamei b'safek umuchlat b'safek. The Nazir was tamei with doubt and confirmed mitzvah with doubt. Oh, we saw this before previously, right?
Right,
This was the Mishnah.
right.
Ochel b'kedoshim achar shishim yom. He eats after 60 days. Kodshim v'shoteh yayin u'mutamei lametim achar me'ah v'esrim yom. That has to take 120 days. Shetiglachet, right? Why? Shetiglachet hanageh, right? Dochet tiglachet hanazir. Okay, that he's saying here that the hair cutting of the fact that he has been a Metzora, okay, overrides the hair cutting issue of the Nazareth. Bisman Shahu Vadai, says the Mishnah. But that's only when it's clearly for certain. Aval Bisman Shahu Safek, at the time when there's a doubt, ain't no doche. It does not override it. And tomorrow we'll pick up on Samech, okay, with the Gemara in terms of that situation. Okay?
Remember, there's a reason why this is before Matan Torah.
Yeah.
Imagine all the questions. Am I Tame? Am I
Thank you, Rabbi Green. Thank you.
Yeah.